LaMalfa?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd tell you one thing, if Congress was writing this legislation now, the way there's folks trying to interpret Army Corps of Engineers, EPA, there's no chance it would pass Congress, certainly back in the 70s, nor now, because people would be calling for the heads of the members of Congress voting for such a far-reaching, overreaching piece of legislation. So here we are. Something was passed in the 70s that has been interpreted and reinterpreted more recently in the Obama era under WOTUS. Went very far-reaching to mean that human-built drainage ditches and agricultural irrigation ditches are now under the scope. We see areas that want to regulate water running off your roof into a rain barrel, saying you can't keep that rain barrel water without some kind of permit because it belongs to someone else. It seems the scope has expanded so much that no drop of water anywhere doesn't belong to the United States. So let's talk about home building for just a little bit. And also I want to touch too that Army Corps is holding up a project in my district for 3 years because it's about a half a mile from a river. So hearing Mr. Owen mention that one of the test questions is, can you avoid building this project? Can you avoid it? Well, no, I own this piece of land right here, private property. I want to build my building here, not have somebody ask me if I can avoid building it. I need it to store my equipment in or build whatever it is. So I want to come to, let's see, sorry here. Ms. Huey, you mentioned in your testimony, there's basically 2 tests, I think as you put it, on when you go to build a house or housing project. One was stormwater runoff. What was the second one? Yeah, there was two pieces in line before we even get to water quality. So
I'm sorry, you're talking about the fill material.
Pardon?
Fill material.
Is that it? Okay. All right, so there was two pieces you would have to certify before you can get going on a project there on fill material, right?
I think it was that you were subject to 404 and then also stormwater controls.
Yes.
Okay, 404. All right, thank you for that. So you've already got a big lift in order to build any kind of housing project with those. And what are the timelines to get through those two types of permits to build housing?
In my area in Alabama, it takes us several years to get through those processes.
Several years.
Yeah, and then there's even more layers after that. Once the development starts, we have, in Alabama, it's the Alabama Department of Environmental Management that we have to go through, and then the municipalities that come through every month and make lists of things that we need to correct, from silt fence to if we've got a pile of dirt that we've moved that it needs to be seed and hayed, and if it's not, if we don't get it taken care of in a couple of days or a week or so. And that's when we have 3 detention ponds on a piece of property as well. Those detention ponds for a subdivision I was in about 4 or 5 years ago let the water out in an 18-inch pipe. And now a development that I'm somewhat involved in, we have to hold the water on the property for 24 hours, stormwater, before it's released.
And so what's the process of having to build the retaining ponds? Do you have to get permits for that? Because I know farmers and ranchers too, and sometimes they can't obtain those because you're somehow changing the watershed. How is that for you?
Right, we used to could fill out the forms to do that. Now we have to hire an environmental consultant, and that could be $5,000 to $10,000. The detention pond itself has cost about $100,000 on the project that I'm working on now.
To make a retention pond in order to do what they want to do so no silt gets away.
Yes, sir.
Because this is primarily about silt. When we're talking about pollutants, you seem to have plenty of regulations on how to use ag chemicals, farm chemicals, other things that are in a factory setting that are, someone's regulating all that effluent, what's coming off there. So when I hear talk of that 50% of his agriculture, what we're really talking about is silt. And so if you go to any river upstream of agriculture after a heavy amount of rain, you see an awful lot of brown water coming down the rivers. It isn't fault of a farmer somewhere. And also you see that up in my district in Northern California, if they're successful with their extremism of tearing out some hydroelectric dams we need for electricity, we're going to release at least 20 million cubic yards of silt down the river. Now, Silt is bad for gold mining and all that sort of thing, bad for fish, for turbidity, except we had a high-ranking official at a recent hearing say, well, the river is very starved for silt. So I'm wondering what the hell anybody's supposed to do, how any farmer, how any homeowner is supposed to figure out how to navigate this when it takes so long to get a permit to build a pond or anything else. 3 years. 3 years for this farmer in my district that wanted to build a building that he can't avoid building. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman's time has expired. Mr. Stanton, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Water is a